So, as you're well aware, the Lakers were the 2020 champions, and despite winning the championship, everyone was asking themselves how they can go back-to-back. Because the Warriors were coming back full strength, we were expecting the Clippers to make big moves that were not signing Marcus Morris for $64 million. Sure, you have teams like the Mavs and the Blazers getting better, as well as the slew of young teams trying to get into the playoffs, but none of those teams are real threats to the Lakers. We'll talk about their free agent additions in a minute, and some possible playoff matchups. But no contending team out west got significantly better to pose a threat to the Lakers. I mean, yes, the Clippers still have Kawhi. I'm not even counting PG because in my eyes, he's no longer a superstar and one of the worst playoff performers I have ever seen personally. But that's besides the point. The Warriors lost their best wing defender in Klay Thompson, and if anything, teams like Denver and Houston got worse. Those are all real threats out west, and honestly, there's not many out east either. Milwaukee is a question mark for me until I can see them play, although they'll probably be really good in the regular season, per usual. The 76ers are another wait-and-see team, considering the disaster that we witnessed last year. Boston and Toronto, I'm not sure, are real contenders, and then we have the Heat. Did the Heat peak last season? I mean, they added Avery Bradley, which is a loss for the Lakers. They also lost Jake Crowder, though, and Iguodala is a year older. We'll see how those young guys progress, but back to the Lakers. They still have the best player in basketball until further notice. Anthony Davis cemented himself as a top 5 player, and they actually managed to upgrade a roster that was thought to be spread thin. They turned JaVale McGee and Dwight Howard into Montrezl Harrell and Marc Gasol. I mean, what? Marc Gasol, even if he's old and maybe not that good anymore, is still a very high IQ player defensively and offensively. He'll be able to handle a playmaking load somewhat, and I'm sure you'll see your fair share of Gasol to Davis lobs from the top of the key. I'm sure he'll find cutters and open guys if the Lakers incorporate more movement in their offense, not to mention his pick and pop potential as well as the spacing he'll provide for AD if his shooting returns to form will be amazing. Did I mention that the Lakers also added Dennis Schroeder? They managed to get the top 2 vote getters for 6th Man of the Year, and all they traded was Danny Green and the 28th overall pick. Schroeder is just so much of an upgrade from any guard they had on the roster last year. I also think he'll fit really good next to LeBron. He's also one of the only other players on the roster who can create his own shot, which is invaluable, especially with this shortened season and an aging LeBron. I also think he'll be in a tertiary role, and that means his shooting numbers and defense should hold up, I think. At least they won't go back to 33% or whatever it was. I would also imagine he plays a lot of minutes with Montrez. Considering Trez kind of needs a pick and roll partner to get him going, Schroeder will do just fine as that, and I think the tandem will score the Lakers a lot of points this season. As I said though, Schroeder is now clearly their 3rd best player, which is huge over any of their 3rd option last year. I mean, if you want to say Trez is their 3rd best player, I won't argue with you. I just hope he doesn't have a repeat of what he did in the playoffs next time around. But in the regular season, he should be totally fine. And if you want to run him almost exclusively off the bench, I don't see that there's any reason that he would object to that because that's what he's been doing. I actually think the Schroeder pickup will also help Kyle Kuzma out a lot, and it might earn him some more money when it comes to extension time. Kuzma is someone who can maybe create his own shot a couple of times, but largely, he needs his offense created for him. Playing off of a Schroeder-Harrell pick and roll should provide him plenty of opportunities to get open shots or maybe cut to the rim for some easy buckets. Maybe he plays with Schroeder, KCP, LeBron, AD. Maybe that's a lineup that they throw out there. I mean, just sit in the corner and collect free threes, man. But just having a real playmaker who is a threat off the dribble as well as from 3 is going to be better for him than having Rajon Rondo. Speaking of, I guess we should talk about the losses here. Avery Bradley went to the Heat, Rondo went to the Hawks, Danny Green went out for Schroeder, and their 2 bigs left for Gasol and Montrez. I think you can argue that they'll miss Bradley and the size Dwight and JaVale brought them. They will sacrifice a bit on the rebounding front, but you can also argue that the spacing and playmaking Gasol will bring will make up for that. And it certainly will allow for AD to play more at the rim. Replacing Rondo with Schroeder is an upgrade in my opinion, because Schroeder's threat to shoot is going to make teams treat the pick and rolls a lot differently. And also there's something to say that the lineups when LeBron or Anthony Davis or both of them were out, it was atrocious. It was awful. So having Schroeder and Montrez to play off the bench is going to be absolutely fantastic for the Lakers. It's going to make things a lot easier on LeBron and Anthony Davis. And in a shortened season with such a quick turnaround, I think that'll be a big deal. I think you will see LeBron and Anthony Davis maybe not taking quite as much of the load, because you have two very capable guys in Schroeder and Montrez. And like I said, Kyle Kuzma should be able to play off with those guys pretty well. And KCP does well, as a cutter, as a spot-up three-point shooter sometimes, if he's not being memed into oblivion, So, honestly, believe it or not, the defending champions actually got better. They'll be sort of a different team next year, with some of their size being sacrificed for spacing and more versatile big play, as well as bench scoring. But this team is most definitely deeper than last year. The only thing that worries me is Montrez in the playoffs. But we'll have to see that when we come to it. Anyway, if you enjoyed the video, consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. Greatly appreciate it. We're really close to 100 subscribers. So, if you didn't like it though, leave a dislike. And y'all have a good one.